Good morning, everybody. Good morning, Marianne. Oh, I got another minute or two before we start. Hi, Nancy. Good morning. And Fran. Good morning, Stephanie. All right, I'm going to start. I'm going to read something that I think I've read to you once before. It's from A Course in Miracles. I'm going to try to flesh this out and try to get across what is being said here. It's on giving and receiving, and the answer, it's under the heading of the answer to prayer. So it goes like this. Never forget that you set the value on what you receive and price it by what you give. And that's true with every transaction we make, certainly of a financial nature. You see something you want, and you, in your mind, set the value. You set the value on that item and on what you want to receive, and you price it by what you give, by what you hand over. So to believe that it is possible to get much for little is to believe that you can bargain with God. God's laws are always fair and perfectly consistent. So this is where it gets interesting. By giving, you receive. You've heard that before. But to receive is to accept, not to get. By giving, you receive. But to receive is to accept, not to get. You cannot get something that you already have. And the only way for most of us, and many times, the only way to receive that which you already have is to give it away. So by giving, you receive, but to receive is to accept, not to get. It's impossible not to have, but it is possible not to know you have. So the recognition of having is the willingness for giving. The recognition of having is the willingness to give. So if you have something that's so incredible, whether it's a dish you made or it's something that a realization you have, you want to share it. Okay, so Recognition of having is the willingness to give. And only by this willingness can you recognize what you have, because the more you give, the more you are sharing, the more you're sharing, the more you're teaching, the more you're teaching, the more you're learning. The only way for you to learn is to teach, according to A Course in Miracles. So the more you teach, the more you come to deeper and deeper understandings. And I know for myself that is in fact the case. If I want to try to teach something, and this is something I've taught before, but I was reading it again over the past couple of days, and the more I read it, the more I understand it, and the more I want to share it. Okay, so everything it's saying in here is 100% true. What you give is therefore the value you put on what you have, being the exact measure of the value you put upon it. And this in turn is the measure of how much you want it. If I want to understand this, and I do, I teach it. And this is the second, and actually this is the third time I've taught this from this exact section here. So whether consciously or unconsciously, I want to understand this more. So you can ask, so with all this as a backdrop, and I may have to go back and reread this because of what I'm going to read now. To ask of the Holy Spirit then, only by giving to him, let me reread that. You can ask of the Holy Spirit then, only by giving to him, and you can give to him only where you recognize him. If you recognize Holy Spirit in everyone, consider how much you will be asking of him and how much you will therefore receive. Spirit will deny you nothing because you have denied him nothing by seeing him in everyone. And so you can share everything. This is the way and the only way to have his guidance, his answer, because his answer is all you can ever ask for and want. So say then to everyone that you come in contact with, because I will to know myself, I see you as God's child and as my brother or my sister. The more you see in others what you perhaps want to see in yourself, the more you're going to see in yourself. Because the more you see in others that which is divine, the more you're going to see your own divinity. So I was reading earlier today in another section here where Jesus only sees the Holy Spirit within you, within each one of us. Jesus chooses not to see any other part. And it's a choice that was made long ago, but it's no longer a choice. He doesn't even have to choose anymore. It's just his way. He sees just the light within you, within me, within everyone. So the more you see the divine or the Holy Spirit in somebody else, the more you're going to see it and feel it within yourself. So now you're standing in front of someone you don't like, or someone you disagree with strongly, or someone who's acting like a jerk. This is difficult. This is really difficult to see the light in that person. Okay? How do you do that? That takes a lot of patience and a lot of practice and a lot of meditating prior to that to get to the point to be able to do what I'm talking about here. By giving, you receive. And by giving, or rather by receiving, you accept, you don't get. You cannot, there's no getting, there's just accepting that higher self that's already within you. Okay? Hold on, I want to see if I can find something else that I just read. So there is a price you pay for judgment. So you're with someone who's acting like a jerk, and you're doing your thing, you're thinking that person's a jerk. So you're judging. There's a price you pay for judgment because judgment is the setting of a price. And as you set it, you pay it. If paying is equated with getting, you will set the price low, but demand a high return. So in other words, you're standing in front of someone else, you're having a discussion, and it's not really going smoothly, and you're thinking, this guy's a jerk, or this person's a jerk, and you just set the price low. You just judged. And whatever you give, you receive. And you accept in yourself that you're the same way you're judging the other person. Does that make sense to you? Basically, it all comes down to as you give, you receive. So in every situation, we got to get to the point in our lives where we can open our heart so much that it does not even cross our mind that that other person is less than divine. We do this with kids. We see the good in kids. We see the good in children, and they respond accordingly. Study after study shows that if you always respond positively to kids, animals, the same thing. You always respond positively, or you put out positive affirmations. They're going to eventually pick up on that and respond accordingly, and then behave in that manner. And it may take years, so there's a lot of patience on your part required. But we find this in, I just mentioned, we find this in animal training. When the animal is a counter surfer, like a dog, and you say, get down from the counter. When you say that to a dog, you are holding in mind the image of the dog's paws up on the counter. The dog reads us feeling-wise. So it sees us picturing the dog's paws on the counter, so it knows it's doing the right thing, even though your words are saying, get down. So dog trainers now teach you imaging the dog's paws on the floor and the dog eating on the floor. And then when that happens, you respond with affirmations and positives. Good dog, way to go, good dog. Okay, this works much more effectively than yelling at the dog because their paws are up on the counter. You're yelling at them for the paws up on the counter, yet in your mind, you're seeing the paws on the counter, and the dog sees what's in your mind. Does that make sense now? Okay. We got to do the same thing when we're talking to another person who's acting like a jerk. Okay, which is unfortunately more often than not. So I want to go back to what I spoke about last week when this, which is Ho'oponopono. When I taught it last week, I was teaching it in reference mainly to other people. I'm sorry, please forgive me. I love you, thank you. But as Dr. Len teaches it, he's saying, no, this is really for you. Every thought you have that is misguided or unbalanced or judgmental or harsh or angry or frustrated or conflicting, you now have to say, I'm sorry, Michael. Please forgive me, Michael. I love you, Michael. Thank you, Michael. And by the way, you can always use the word Michael going forward if you want. Okay. The same thing with this. The more you give, the more you receive. So the more you see it in other people, the more it's going to reflect back onto you. So if you're judging other people, you're judging yourself. Elsewhere in A Course in Miracles, it says, you cannot do this life alone. You have to use other people, work with other people, use them as the example, use them as the tool to help you help them so that you help yourself. If you think this can all be done, this being life can all be done as a monk, it's not going to work quite as well or quite as fast. In here, Jesus says you have to look at other people and forgive them. You have to look at other people and not judge them because those other people are you. There are no other people. So in the yoga philosophy, it's a dualistic philosophy. There is a this and a that. There is a you and a me. In Advaita Vedanta, which is a Hindu philosophy, and in A Course in Miracles, those two are very similar in that there is oneness. There is no other, which is what Advaita means. So when you're working with that supposed other person, you're working with yourself. That other person is a reflection of you. For any of you who have been married, you've heard that your partner mirrors a lot of you. And which is one of the reasons you get sick and tired of that other person, because you don't like some of the aspects of yourself. So you change yourself, you help the other person change, it all comes back. As you give, you receive by accepting. You don't have to get anything. It already is. It's inside you, and it's an attribute waiting to be found. So Ho'oponopono, you're working on someone else, like Dr. Len did in the ward of that hospital that had just the criminally insane. He worked on all the other inmates as though it was himself. And the effectiveness, we already know that ward closed down within a year and a half because he healed every single patient without ever meeting with them. You do the same thing. You do the Ho'oponopono type of mantra, and you do the work when you're meeting with someone face to face. Behind the scenes, you're saying, I'm sorry, please forgive me, I love you, thank you. You're not judging them. If you just say those 4 statements, you won't be judging them. You'll tie in the principle that I just read to you from A Course in Miracles, so that you're actually practicing 2 different practices. You're practicing just giving, non-judgment. So let's do that when we meditate right now. Everybody good? You got that? I like it much better when there's feedback. When I get responses, like yesterday's meditation session, where I could get some comments and whatnot. So anyways, if you're not sitting down, sit down, get comfortable. I'm going to adjust my computer screen so I can sit down. Close your eyes. It's going to be a mostly silent meditation today. Sit up as tall as you can. You can do one of a couple of things. You can do the Ho'oponopono prayer. I'm sorry, please forgive me. I love you, thank you. You can do that by itself. You can do that while imagining you're with another and you're saying that with the other person in mind. Bring your hands together. Gently rub them together, creating some heat. Place them over your eyes, opening your eyelids, removing your hands. Have a great day, everybody. Thank you. Namaste.